Thanks for coming out again. This is Natural Vision Correction Part 2. I'm Dr. DeWitt at Bergman Family Chiropractic, and we're going to talk about some different ways. We're going to talk about stress again, just a little bit briefly. We covered that last time. We're going to talk about diet, antioxidants, some that you may have not heard of before, and some more advanced strategies to help improve your vision even more, to address specifically nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. So if you were here last time, this might look a little familiar. One of the basic flaws with glasses is that it's a consistent correction for a dynamic, constantly changing eye vision. So I mean, you're always changing with light conditions, with the distance you're looking, what you're trying to focus on, and so a lens doesn't actually correct all those ranges. It's just one particular area. So if it's a reading glass, it's like right here, or if you want distance, that kind of thing. So it's always changing. 3 out of 4 people believe that their sight is the most important sense they have because 80% of what they bring into their senses is through their vision, which makes sense. So if you lose your vision, then you have to build up your hearing, and you hear all that interesting stories about people that can hear different things and sense different colors and things like that when they lose their vision. But that's a whole nother talk. So as I said, we're going to discuss how stress affects vision, nutritional tips, lifestyle changes, which some people might be sad to hear about. There's some sugar that we're going to have to cut out of our diet, and there's some certain smoking and things like that, which we shouldn't be doing anyway, but I understand. Super antioxidant that you may have never heard of, and advanced vision correction strategies. Now that's purposefully called a strategy, not an exercise, because when you think exercise, then you think stress, and it's going to make things tense. And that's the last thing you want to do as far as having better vision, because it's all about relaxing the muscles of the eye, because if you have a tense eye or ocular muscle, it's going to pull the eye to the side and have problems with focusing in on particular objects. They call it accommodation. And we have an interesting, in one of the rooms we have a string of beads, and you can hold it up, and I'll demonstrate it later when we're in there after the talk. You can hold it up between your eyes, and then it goes all the way to the wall, and you have to have it at eye level, obviously. And you can focus. There's multiple beads on there, and you can focus even though they're perfectly lined up. You can use your eyes because you have the binocular vision. You can focus on the first one, and you just see the first one, and then it looks like the other ones go in a V like that. And then as you go, and if you get to the middle bead, it looks like there's an X. The ones behind go like this, and then in front go like this. It's really interesting to work on your accommodation of the eyes, and it helps you focus quite a bit. And it's a strategy, not an exercise. So, as we talked about a little bit before, that Harvard study, if you believe that you can see better and you're told that you can see better, you'll see better. And a lot of it is in your head. A lot of people believe that as they get older, they're going to lose their vision, they're going to have to start wearing bifocals and the whole deal. And that's not necessarily true. Part of that is some of the lifestyle things we're going to talk about. So if you're really strict about, not strict because that leads to stress, if you're very diligent about relaxing, eating the proper foods, having the proper lifestyle habits, then there's no reason that you shouldn't see beyond 20/20 your entire life. This is an example. This is if you look at it, the person's nose is right here, as you can see, nose is here. And so it's their left eye, and this muscle is tight from stress, and that's going to cause the left eye to go out, to drift. And sometimes you see people that when you're talking to them, their eye will drift up or down or to the side, and that's going to prevent them from being able to focus with that left eye. So they can't have the convergence on one particular point, so it's going to blur their vision. So we're going to talk about different techniques on how to relax that. Strategies, so to speak. And remembering, this is what I was talking about before, it's not an exercise, it's a relaxation. That's how you're going to recover your vision. You don't want to strain, because if you're straining to see better, you're going to squint, and we talked about last week, you don't want to squint, you want to blink and relax your facial muscles, because the blinking has natural antibiotics, and actually the tears act as a contact lens to help you focus. So blinking, not straining and squinting. So straining of your eyes is a straining of your mind. So you don't want that. So some of the food suggestions, you want to go for A, C, and E. Those are some great vitamins. Copper and zinc are very important minerals to eyesight. The antioxidants help protect your macula from sun damage. And the antioxidants, we're going to go into specifics of which ones are the best for that. Foods that are rich in sulfur, cysteine, and lecithin help protect the lens of the eye itself and help prevent cataract formation. And as we talked about last week, I know I keep saying that, but the cataracts, even if you do some of these strategies that we're going to show you and that we did last week, that actually can help reduce cataracts. That one gentleman that was 60 years old that did the exercises, his cataracts started to get significantly improved after doing these strategies. The omega-3 fat, DHA, is very important, as we always know. Krill oil is a great source of that, and it helps to increase the cell membrane health and boost eye health overall. You want to limit your environmental toxins. This is one of them, but I'm not going to say anything. And computers are another one. Large TV screens, so don't look at the screen. Oh, well, you have to look at the screen. Sorry. Swimming pools, chlorine, it's bad for the eyes, and it can cause drying of the eye itself, so you want to make sure you are relaxing and not in overhead light if you can help it. And computer monitors, you can actually get non-glare protectors to put over computer monitors at work, and that'll cut down the glare quite a bit, which helps a lot as far as eye strain. Sleep is important. I always used to love Garfield back in the day. He's not really around as much anymore, but getting enough sleep is essential, but it actually, your eye doesn't relax as much while you sleep as you would think, because as you dream, your eye is still moving, and REM sleep, rapid eye movement, is what REM stands for. So it's important to actually be, and we're going to go into the different brainwave cycles and things like that in a minute with different colors and such. But when you're sleeping, it's good to relax your mind, but it doesn't necessarily relax your eyes. That's why these strategies are important. Side effect, that is not me, and that is not Dr. Bergman. We need to realize that it's not, it's not an inevitable part of aging like I was talking about. It's just a common side effect of our modern lifestyle, because we're eating a lot of fructose, eating trans fats, smoking, which is horrible. Obesity and diabetes are an epidemic right now, and both of those can affect your vision. So here's a better vision tip in connection with diabetes. These are called microaneurysms. So you can take a fundoscope and look inside a person's eye, and it's just whenever they have the little light that they shine in your eye, have you look at a dot on the wall, and they look in one eye and in the other eye. And so this is the area where the optic nerve comes in right here. So this is the actual inside of someone's eye. These are the arteries coming out, and these little red dots are microaneurysms, and that's one of the first signs of diabetes. People that might not know they have diabetes, that's one of the first signs. And it's one way to prevent that is to avoid fructose. And avoid trans fats that are in all these tasty treats we have here. We have donuts, fries, and fried chicken. And if you've ever seen Forks Over Knives, great movie, and I'm going to talk about it 2 weeks from today and go over it specifically on some of the studies, the China study as well. It talks a lot about animal products in general, even cheese and dairy, how it's got a lot of ingredients that are detrimental to us in general, just our health, overall health, cancer rates, etc. But that'll be in 2 weeks. Avoid aspartame, which is a common sweetener for coffees as well as in gum, because that's another thing that can lead to vision problems if you have too much aspartame. It's a sign of aspartame poisoning. Isn't that tasty? So you see people that have cleaned out their ashtrays in a parking lot, and there's just a big pile of cigarette butts there, and it just smells so good, and it's just so good for you. But it can definitely take a toll on your health. You can imagine sitting there with a cigarette and the smoke coming up in your eye, it's burning. And I realize it's a bad habit. It's a really hard habit to break, because nicotine, I believe they've come out that it's even more addictive than cocaine. So you need to really have a little empathy for people that do smoke. And they have nicotine patches now that can help them reduce the symptoms and the cravings. So it's best if you don't smoke. That'll help your vision. And the people around you will be able to see, because there won't be any smoke. Some of the antioxidants, lutein and zeaxanthin. I know the zeaxanthin sounds really exciting, but that's not the one you probably haven't heard of yet. Eggs and spinach are really plentiful as far as having lutein and zeaxanthin. And a lot of leafy green vegetables, if we're vegetable juicing like we're supposed to, very healthy, very good for you, drinking plenty of water. It can help reduce your macular degeneration, which is the leading cause of blindness in people today. This is the ultimate carotenoid for eye health, astaxanthin. It's found in microalgae and krill as well, and also salmon. And it prevents all of these conditions. It's a little small, hard to see, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy. And the way it actually helps prevent these is it helps circulation in those really small capillaries of the eye. And we're going to talk about that in about 2 seconds. Glaucoma, all inflammatory eye diseases, venous occlusion, in other words, when the veins get blocked, it helps prevent that. It's a very popular antioxidant nowadays, and you can get it at Mother's Market. And I recommend starting with 4 milligrams. And I'm going to talk about that on a slide momentarily. Here's the microalgae where the astaxanthin comes from. And there's only 2 main sources, the microalgae and the sea creatures that eat it. Salmon, shellfish, and krill. So that's a giant-sized krill if it's as big as a salmon, but that's okay. And so this is how it works. It helps maintain appropriate eye pressure levels that are already within normal range, and it supports your eye's energy levels and visual acuity. It reduces eye soreness, the capillary blood flow, and actually improves your depth perception by 46% in combination with the bead of string, or the string of beads that we're going to look at earlier. That's just amazing. Prevents eye fatigue. It prevents, or it actually improves your eye's ability to focus by enabling the lens to more easily adjust. And it all goes back to circulation. We talk about in the office all the time how you have to have good nerve flow with subluxations. We remove the nerve pressure so you have more nerve flow. The same is true here with the circulation of the blood. You get more oxygen, more blood to the eye and to the lens. It's going to function better. So here are some of the supplements, and as I said before, you start with 4 milligrams a day. They have probably 10 more of these in Mother's stacked up, so you just go to the vision section or just to the supplement section and ask for astaxanthin. I was in Whole Foods the other day and asked if they had it, and they had a whole table just with that on it because it's such a popular thing nowadays. Strategies, not exercises, for optimal vision. Flashing. This is something you can do all the time and not like you think. Not flashing like they used to do back in the 60s. Or so I hear. I wasn't around back then. What you do is you start looking at the first word of a sentence on a page, and if it's fuzzy, you close your eyes, you relax, you visualize what the letter's supposed to look like, and you open your eyes, and you'll see it, and it'll be clear for a second. And then as soon as it goes out of focus again, you close your eyes again. You can focus on a particular color that's relaxing, and really visualize that color and the letters, and then open it again, and you keep doing this over and over and over again, and that trains your eye to stay in that focused range. It starts out at just a split second at first, but then the longer you do it, the longer it'll actually be in focus. And so as I said, this basically repeats what I was just saying. You continually alternate resting the eyes and flashing the letters for a time, and eventually you'll see that the vision is improving. This is funny too, because you can look at a page, and it's odd because sometimes, and it usually is whatever's in your central ray of focus, that those particular words or letters will be really clear and bright, but then all the rest of the letters just are all fuzzy, and some words jump out at you and some don't. That has to do with the accommodation of your eyes, which is something that you can do with these strategies to help get better at that accommodation. So this was from last week, shifting. For people that weren't here, you make sure that your center of focus is on the black dots, and then you just nice and relaxed, not stressed, a casual pace, go from side to side, up and down. You can go diagonally if you like, and that's called shifting, and it's a way to keep practicing with the central ray of focus to make sure it stays clear, because it's the size of a pin, not the pin head, but the pointy end of a pen is the fovea centralis, where you actually focus your vision. And so you need to focus on small parts of large objects. This is another way that you can actually use your body. You can rock back and forth, and keeping your eye, instead of moving your head like this, you can just rock back and forth, and then that helps to stimulate more of the retina, and that's going to help your body to be able to accommodate better as well. And this is going to talk about, we touched on this briefly last week about astigmatism. So a lot of people, myself included, have an astigmatism, and was told if you have astigmatism you can't wear contacts because you have a funny shaped eye and you're just out of luck, so you're just going to have to wear glasses. So I did since 6th or 7th grade. But so this is a test they would give you. They'd have you stare at this dot on this diagram and ask if any of the lines were fuzzy or if any stood out more than others. So there's the diagram, and based on how the actual anatomy of the eye works, it's impossible to stare at that dot in the middle and not have the lines be out of focus with some coming in and out of focus. That's just how the eye is made. So so this is basically a test that's meant to fail. It just guarantees that you're going to think you have an astigmatism. So they get to sell you expensive glasses. But this is a more believable and valid test for astigmatism, and we have this set up in the first room on the left, I believe. And what you do is you can focus on the dot in the middle at first, and then you can trace, pretending like you have a pencil coming out the end of your nose, or a feather. We talked about feather, sounds a little friendlier than a pencil. But you trace one circle clockwise and then counterclockwise, and then you can shift from one side to the other, back and forth, diagonally, just pretend like there's particular dots, like a spaced spot here, spot up there, spot over here, then shift down to this circle, back and forth, up and down, and practice going around in circles this way and then the opposite way, alternating what circles you look at, and that's going to help to actually change the shape of your eyeball. This is another example of that. Instead of tracing the circles, you trace from one line to the other. You can go from the 9 to the 3, from the 5 to the 11, and then you can focus in the middle for a little bit and just practice shifting. And it's just training your eye to be able to focus better on what you're looking at, and by moving it in different areas, different lines, different angles, it's going to help the shape of your eye itself. Because the eye is like a camera. When you see people focusing like a big camera at a football game or something like that, they're on the sidelines and have these huge zoom lenses, that's because they have to really lengthen out the focal point to be able to get a good picture. And the same happens with the eyeball. It's not just the lens that changes thickness. The entire eyeball itself has to change shape. So that's why it's good to have your eyeball in the proper shape and be used to accommodating to different angles. This is interesting. This goes into some really interesting stuff about the different hemispheres of the brain. So if we're going to talk about colors in a minute too, which is really interesting, because you want to utilize both sides of your brain, because the area that your vision focuses on is the very back of your brain in the optical area. But if you do this march where you're staring straight ahead and you're going right to left just like this, it's actually activating opposite sides of your brain, so that you actually have to use the entire brain. It communicates better, and that helps your vision to be more acute. We talked about this last week. You relax, you have the right hand over the left hand, fingers crossed like this, palms of your hand resting on your cheekbones. You're not pressing into your eyeballs or eye sockets or anything. You have your eyes closed and you're just relaxing. You're sitting usually at a table. You can put a pillow under your elbows. And this is what a gentleman did with Dr. Bates that came up with this technique. A 60-year-old gentleman that had been wearing glasses for 40 years did this for almost 24 hours straight, just taking breaks to drink water, didn't eat any other foods or anything like that, just water. And his vision improved to 20/20, and 2 years later it was still 20/20. Just from doing took that one dedicated, tedious time to just use this relaxation strategy, and hadn't had to wear glasses for 2 years. It's a pretty.
Did that one day.
Just that one day, yeah. Yeah, Dr. Bates couldn't believe it either. He's like, "That's pretty impressive." He's like, "I know my stuff."
Does he have to do it periodically to keep it up, or not?
After 2 years, I'm just okay. I'll take a day out every 2 years to fix my vision. So this is going to cover. There's a handout that you have that has the colors on there. You start by relaxing. This is how to really focus and help to cover all the different spectrum and chakras of your body that we're going to go into. You imagine sparkling white light at first. This gets a little esoteric and warm and fuzzy, but it works really well. Breathe and imagine and feel each color on the chart. You start at the red, which corresponds to the tailbone area, and then the orange, you work up to the abdomen, and then yellow is the solar plexus. Green is at the heart, blue is at the throat, purple is up here in the forehead, and light purple is the top of your head. And so you imagine all these different colors as you look at the chart. And then in between each color, you go back to the white sparkling light. And this is all, once again, working on the different hemispheres of the brain. The red, orange, and yellow, that works on the left hemisphere of the brain, and that works on closer vision for reading. The green, actually, ironically, works on both sides of the brain, left and right, so it helps them to work together. And then the blue, purple, and light purple is the right hemisphere of the brain, and that helps with distance vision. And so we have a little test similar to this set up in the room on the right that we're going to talk about, or actually go through after we are done talking here. So, as I said before, red, orange, and yellow is the left brain hemisphere for clear and close vision, and the rest for the right, and green integrates both. So this is an example, yet another, I can't take credit for the artwork. So we've got basically the different colors on a string, and it goes out. The green is usually at 20 feet if you can, if you have the space. Obviously we didn't have the space in here, but that's okay. And we actually have all blue beads, but that's just because I was short on time. I apologize. And you have the light purple on that end, the red down here, and just like I was saying, you hold it up to your eyes. If you're focusing on the closest one, it's going to be like this, and the ones behind it are going to look like they go into a V. And then if you focus in the middle one, you're going to get what they call the X. And you need to really work to focus to get the X, because that means you have good accommodation, your ability of both eyes to focus on a single point. And if not, then they have all kinds of strategies to help to balance it out. If one eye's not getting to where it needs to be, we have specific strategies to help with that. And then as you focus on the further speed, well, actually in this case it's just the blue one, then you're going to have them coming down like that, the ones between that and the blue one. I actually didn't believe that this worked like this until I actually tried it on the string of beads. You'll be amazed. It's a neat little party trick. But you have to get it to where you can do that. It's pretty amazing. So now we're going to talk about the brainwave frequency. That's also on the color chart that you have. It talks about the different brainwaves. You've got the delta, which is the deepest state of relaxation. Only 1 to 3 cycles per second as far as brainwave cycles. Theta is a little bit deeper than regular relaxed state, so it's kind of in between. And that's 4 to 6 cycles per second. And that's when you kind of are halfway asleep, and then you think you hear your name or something and jump and wake up. That's when you're in the theta state. Alpha is a relaxed state where you're only 7 to 13 cycles per second, so you're awake but you're just relaxed. And this corresponds to each level. The red starts at alpha, and then you just get deeper and deeper and deeper as you focus on those colors through the chart. So in alpha, theta, and delta, that's when the eye muscles relax. The eye is in its normal shape, and it functions correctly. So that's why sleeping is not the same as doing these techniques, because when you're focusing on the different colors while you're going into these more and more relaxed states, that's actually relaxing the eye muscles themselves. But when you're asleep, that's not the case. So sleeping is good, but not specifically for vision correction. So what about beta? I was looking at that. I said, well, where's beta? Beta is just when you're having happy, constructive, positive thoughts, but you're wide awake. So your eyes are not necessarily relaxed, so you don't get any therapeutic advantage from the beta brainwave state. Full spectrum sunlight is very important because you want to get the full range. The light and darkness controls the production and balance of the melatonin, serotonin, and all the chemicals and neuro hormones and peptides in the brain. So it travels. This is a neat diagram coming up. It talks about how sunlight comes in the eye and goes into all the different organs of the brain. So it comes in here. So you see a tree here. It's upside down on the back of the retina, as we know, and then it goes all the way through the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, and all these other things. And then when it gets to the back part of the brain, it's actually right side up. Because if it actually was, if you have a lot of times people that have some nerve damage between here and the back of the brain, suddenly they see everything upside down. And the brain is so amazing that it accommodates for that over time, and it'll actually make new connections and new neuronal connections and turn the images back upright so the person's able to function. So it's truly, and it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously if they're younger and they have some sort of trauma, it happens a lot faster because younger brain tissue, sadly, it's just how it is. It's a lot easier to fix itself when it's damaged, but it happens in older patients as well that have been injured. This is an interesting test as well. You can hang a pencil I didn't have a window, a pencil, or a tree to do this, but you can hang a pencil and you rock back and forth staring at the pencil, and it starts to look like the tree is actually going back and forth. Just another way to help focus your eyes and help them to accommodate on one particular object, which ultimately is what gets you to better, clearer vision. And all these exercises, by the way, for people that have the little flashy lights and little glowworms sometimes that you see in your vision sometimes, these all help that as well. So this talks about the 8 chakras that we just were talking about before. The base is red, base of the spine, lower abdominal, red-orange. Right below the solar plexus is orange. You have a picture of this. Solar plexus is yellow, chest is green, throat and neck is blue. Top of the head, purple and light purple, just like this little guy here. That's why it's important to get the full spectrum of light being out in the sun, because you'll get all those different colors. That's what's interesting. I took an art class back in forever ago, and it talked about how when you have the color blue, technically that's every color but blue, because blue is the only color of the spectrum that's getting bounced back into your eye. The color black is technically it's all colors, because it gets absorbed, it absorbs all the full spectrum. And if it's white, it's technically not any color, because white reflects all the light. So that's why white is cooler in the hot day and black is warmer, because it's absorbing all the light rays. Just a little tidbit there. Lack of mobility is a problem, as we talked about last week. You have to make sure that you've got proper nerve flow, especially in the neck and the upper region of the neck, because that's going to help with the vision, the optic nerve. And as we talked about with the astaxanthin, the antioxidants, that's helping with the blood flow and circulation, getting the oxygen to the eyes. Proper nerve flow goes hand in hand with that, and it's going to be